Hey guys, it's Ollie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about 10 things that every herp owner should have. So if you're new to owning a snake or an amphibian of some kind, these are just some 10 things that might come in handy for you and that I kind of wish I would have known about whenever I first got one. It's more of the things that people don't always talk about. Alright, so number 1 on the list is Dechlorinator. So you're going to want this for your water. It just dechlorinates the water because at least here in the US there is chlorine in our tap. So dechlorinated works fine. You can also get like jugs of dechlorinator. There's different brands. I personally like Reptile. It lasts me forever. And I put that in my misting water and just their water bottles. Any water I give my amphibians or reptiles will have Reptile. So it's a pretty handy thing to have. I didn't know about it until a couple months into owning my first snake. But it's awesome, and it's pretty cheap, and it lasts you a very long time. So I definitely recommend that. I think that every herp keeper should have some water dechlorinator. Alright, so next up is a Temp Gun. So you're going with a Temp Gun to look at specific areas, whether it's their water, their basking spot, one of their hides, and it's not just the ambient, so you can temp anywhere with it, and it'll read you the degree. They're very nice to have on hand, and they're much more reliable than just having a thermostat in there, because you can just go in their enclosure, temp it, see what it says, and go from there. Thermostats and thermometers aren't always reliable, so it's good to have a backup. So I recommend these for every herp keeper, no matter what you have, even if it's something that has room temp. I would always have one of these. They are great and they're pretty cheap. This one was the cheapest I could find on Amazon, I think, and I can link it down below. Alright, so number 3 is more for just snake keepers. I recommend having a snake hook. This is just the cheapest snake hook from like Petco. It's not great, but it does what I need it to do. So even if your snake is very friendly, I still recommend a snake hook. They're just handy to have around in case maybe one day they're just kind of grumpy, but you have to take them to the vet or you have to get them in another bin. These are really handy to have around just in case they're just a little bit moody sometimes. Alright, so for the 4th thing, I would recommend a cleaning solution. I mix my own, but there are brand names you can get. There are things you can go to the pet store and buy or you can buy online. But even if you have a bioactive, you need to clean the glass. You need to go in, disinfect that glass, make sure it's clean. I can't tell you how many people don't know this. So I just use a vinegar solution. Where I use distilled vinegar and I dilute it with water. And this is safe for the animals. All of the ones I have dries relatively quick. So when you clean it, you do have to take the animals out, no matter really what you use. But I use this once a month on all of my glass enclosures. It just cleans that glass up, it gets the bacteria off, all the germs off, and gets it all clean, and vinegar works just fine. So you don't have to go out and buy some fancy, expensive cleaner. You can just use some distilled vinegar that you can get from the store, or like a big bucket of it for like maybe $3, and some water. And that's what I always use, and it's always worked. I've heard of other people using it before, so if that's something you're interested in, there's plenty of other videos online of that mixture or other mixtures you could make. Alright, so number 5 on my list would just be a bin, just a container that you can fit your animal in. I call them their travel containers. When you clean their enclosure, you need to put them in something. You can put them in a bin. This is one of my smaller bins. This is actually one for my Fowler's toad. I'd put them in this. You can put them in this bin if you need to take them to the vet. If you're moving, you can put them in these. And they're just, this is from the dollar store. Closes well enough that I can use it. But a better way to poke holes in it, just for ventilation, is on the side. You can melt holes. And they're not something you would think of. I certainly did not think I was going to need a bin for my snake when I first got it. So you're going to want to make sure you have one, just in case you need to get them out of their enclosure and you can't hold them while they're out of their enclosure. These work great. Just make sure they have a secure lid for what you put them in. This is good for a toad, not for a snake, because my snake would be easily would easily be able to open this up and get out. Any bin that you think will fit for your animal and you think will be secure enough for your animal, you should get that. Alright, so this next one is pretty normal. I think most people are going to know it. Just some tongs. You're going to want some tongs for any species you're going to feed by tongs. I feed almost everything with these. I get my dubias out with these because I'm a little bit allergic. I don't like touching them too much. So these come in handy. As mediocre as it might be, I figured I would add them because some people don't realize how important these can be if you have any exotic animal. I use these for my sugar gliders too, and I feed them mealworms. I use them to feed my frogs, my toads, my snakes, all that stuff. The only things I don't use them for are the ones that eat salad. And you can use them for things that eat salads. If, like, you have a bearded dragon and you want to tong feed it for like bonding purposes or something, you can use tongs. They have all kinds of different ones. So like, they have some that kind of go out like that. They have some with rubber tips. They have bamboo ones. They have all kinds. I just got the generic standard tongs. Alright, so next thing isn't really a necessity, but I like it and I can never go back to regular spray bottles. It's just a big pump mister. So I got this in the gardening section at Walmart. They are relatively cheap, between like $5 and $10. There are different kinds. I'm actually going to get a new one soon. Whenever I had like a couple snails, it was fine. Like my dollar store spray bottle was fine. But after I got so many animals that needed misted every day, that thing wasn't cutting it. Gave my hand cramps. This thing's awesome. And you can also lock it with this button here. So you just, basically how you work them, you pump them like that and it builds pressure inside. And then you can just hold this down and you spray it. And it does it much faster, much more water, and it's much easier. So if you have a lot of animals that need misting, or you have an animal that needs a lot of misting a day, I recommend you looking into a pump mister. They're a lifesaver. So the next thing I recommend would be a thermometer hydrometer combo, and this is one of them. I got this in a pack on Amazon. It's really nice to have, and it came in this huge set, and that will also be linked down below. But I recommend these. They're really easy to have. Just stick in your enclosure up against the glass, and you can just walk by and you can see their humidity and their temp. Alright, so the next thing is a 5-gallon bucket. Just one of these. This isn't a necessity for everybody, but if you're like me and you have a good amount of exotics that you use the compressed eco earth blocks that you have to like rehydrate for the substrate, get a 5-gallon bucket. It makes it so much easier to put the blocks in to hydrate, especially if you're using all 3 blocks or more. It makes it so much easier. I actually have 2 5-gallon buckets. I have one for mixing substrate, and the other one is for cleaning out enclosures. I put the old substrate in my red bucket, and so I can take it out and throw it out easier. So I highly recommend you having a 5-gallon bucket. It's a real lifesaver, especially if you have a lot of animals that need a substrate that you either mix up or that you have to hydrate. So last but not least, probably the most important thing you can have if you have any animal that needs a heat mat is a thermostat. You need to have a thermostat if you use a heat mat, a ceramic heat emitter, anything that gives off heat. Alright, so what you would do is, let's say you had an enclosure that needed to be 90 degrees, you would take your thermostat, set it to 90 degrees, you would plug in your heat source, and you would put the probe on wherever your heat source is on the inside of the tank, and it will regulate that for you. So if your heat mat, for example, starts getting above 90, it'll shut it off. Because if you don't use a thermostat, it will cook your animal. It will get too overheated. There's actually a video that Maddie Smith did where she demonstrated the thermostats just like in empty tanks to show you how hot they would get. And I will link that video down below. It's a good watch. I highly recommend it. It just really shows how important they are. If you have any animal that you are using any heat source on, you need to regulate that. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope that this helped you if you needed ideas for things that you might need if you're planning on your first animal. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye! Alright, so the next thing you're going to want is